Greetings and welcome to SAMHSA's Recovery Exchange Meeting, our quarterly convening for the health and addictions, to both hear about what we're up to in terms of Office of Recovery, share updates on our work, as well as to hear from you. What are your pressing concerns, issues? Are there particular exciting things that are happening in your communities? We'd like to hear all of that when we get to the discussion portion of our agenda. We have a number of activities that we're going to share today and on the agenda for today's meeting. But first, on the next slide, Lupe, just our usual disclaimer. And again, just to acknowledge that also this information in the public domain, we are recording this meeting, add that as well. Next slide, Lupe. It's my pleasure at this time to introduce our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Mental Health and Substance Use here at SAMHSA, Tom Coder. Tom, to you.
Well, thank you so much, Paulo, and good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from today. Welcome everyone to the quarterly Recovery Exchange meeting, and thank you to SAMHSA's Office of Recovery for convening us once again. It's really a busy time, and I know everyone has so much going on, so the fact that you're taking time out of your schedules to be with us and to stay updated on some of the work that we're doing, we really appreciate it. I know a lot of you also are preparing to observe International Overdose Awareness Day on August 31st, and we at SAMHSA are actually recognizing the entire week. It's a solemn time as we publicly mourn loved ones that have been lost to overdose, but it's also an opportunity to send a strong message to current and former people who use drugs that they are valued. It also stimulates discussion about the ever-increasing fatal drug supply, overdose prevention strategies, and basic information on the range of support services that are available. SAMHSA has a page with info and shareables that we'll link to in the chat. And ONDCP is also organizing an event with the White House Office of Public Engagement, which everyone will be invited to join via live stream next week. So please watch out for those announcements. I know the major agenda item for today's meeting is going to be to talk about Recovery Month. And as a person in long-term recovery myself, I look forward to this time every year to share the hope and promise that recovery is for so many of us. And we all know that Recovery Month is not only celebrated to raise awareness about recovery, but it's also a time we honor and support those in recovery and those who are working to achieve recovery, along with their loved ones, and the many friends and allies that have come into this movement. In just a few moments, you're going to hear how you can join with SAMHSA in celebrating Recovery Month and all the exciting activities happening for September. Since our last convening, the SPARK training and the Technical Assistance Program has been hard at work. Stay tuned for more details on this exciting work that's happening across the country. We're also thankful for the enormous support that the Office of Recovery continues to receive as we work together to advance recovery across America. When SAMHSA established the Office of Recovery, and that was a proud moment for so many of us, it was our hope that along with your support, that office would be able to help many more people find their path and live full, happy, independent lives in the community with their family and friends. And I'm so happy to see that vision materializing here at SAMHSA and all around our country. We also recognize the importance of having all of you, our recovery partners, at this table to help increase public awareness surrounding mental health and substance use recovery. And we're really fortunate to be able to get to hear from you about the work that we're doing and how you feel about it, and where we may be getting it right and where we may need to do more work. And we also love hearing every quarter what your organizations are doing. And so we'll have an opportunity here today for you to talk a little bit about what your plans are for Recovery Month. So again, thank you for all you do in your local communities, in your states and across this nation to bring hope and healing to so many. We look forward to continuing these conversations with you. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you, Paulo.
Thank you so much, Tom. To kick us off here with some brief updates, we're going to hear from the Office of Recovery Deputy Director, Michael Askew. Michael.
Thank you, Paulo, and welcome everyone to the Recovery Exchange. We're excited here at SAMHSA to once again celebrate Recovery Month, and it's a national observance that's held every September to promote awareness of the power of recovery from mental health and substance use conditions. It also celebrates the millions of Americans in recovery and recognizes the contributions and accomplishments of people in recovery, their loved ones, and allies. Recovery events are celebrated around the nation and the world. But during Recovery Month, SAMHSA Office of Recovery also applauds the dedication of service providers, states, and communities who's champion recovery. Recovery Month is intended to counter stigma and instill hope in the American public that recovery is possible. Certainly today we are excited about having our toolkit released Friday, and certainly part of that toolkit, you will be able to access key messages and key themes, weekly themes that we're going to be provided throughout the month for our webinar series, which we will be having 4 weeks of our dimensions of recovery, which is health, home, wellness, and social determinants of health. And also we want to look at the toolkit in supporting our communities with you downloading social media shareables. Also, you can use our virtual backgrounds, social media profile frames, and more. And as well as we want to make sure that you have all the resources as well that you can utilize for Recovery Month. And we also, I just want to recognize the 2024 Recovery Month Planning Committee members that are online. And if you are a planning member that participated this year, please raise your hand by acknowledging that you supported SAMHSA with the tag this year, Recovery, Hope, Healing, which is the tag for this year's Recovery Month logo. And also some of the work that you provided with the weekly themes and the messages that we created, also the Recovery, Hope and Healing that was mentioned, and also the planning of the walk that is coming up September 5th. Next slide. So here's a list of all the National Recovery Month events listed on our website. Feel free to please go on and just check them out and take a look at what you may be interested in being educated and supported with. Next slide. And so, yes, our walk will be September 5th. Our walk will be from Freedom Plaza to Washington Monument, and we'll be walking in solidarity. We have a great list of speakers and people that will speak to the story of hope. And we will convene at the Sylvan Theater where the rally will begin. And there's a QR code if you'd like to register, sign up. And certainly we'd love to have you participate. And I'll turn that back to you, Paulo.
Thank you so much for those updates. Up next, we're going to do a quick update on our inaugural Art of Recovery initiative led by Kristen Harper. Kristen, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Paulo. I'm so excited to share with everyone that our first year for the Art of Recovery project closed in June of this year. Almost 320 submissions. So we were very pleased with the amount of submissions that were given to us for review, ranging from painting to drawings to digital. We had a few sculptures, multimedia, just incredibly powerful expressions of recovery through artwork. So the artists were all sent an acceptance email or letter at the beginning of August, end of July. And I just wanted to take a second to really emphasize how much this particular initiative meant to folks in our community. And so we go to the next slide. You can read some of the quotes that were shared with me directly from the artists who received acceptance emails. And I do feel like we tapped a really powerful part of our population, and can't wait for the online Gallery of Hope to be launched on September 5th, which will coincide also with our kickoff event of the walk. So we will send out a blast email with the link to the Gallery of Hope as soon as it's ready to go on September 5th. And I invite you all to enjoy some of the incredibly moving and inspirational pieces, and then also the stories behind the pieces. We had a range of stories from mental health recovery to substance use recovery, and just family members, youth. Really, we were able to capture the whole gamut. So we're very grateful. And if you are one of our artists that submitted, thank you so much for giving us your baby, so to speak, and we will take very good care of them. So that's all from the Art of Recovery. And again, be on the lookout for the link to the Gallery of Hope. We're really excited to share it with the world. Back to you, Paulo.
Thank you so much, Kristen, and congratulations, Gallery of Hope, September 5th. We'll keep an eye out. Next, we're gonna hear from Captain Wanda Finch about another first, and that's our inaugural Star Awards. Wanda, over to you.
Thank you, Paulo. Good afternoon, everyone. And as Recovery Month draws to a close this September, we will be hosting an awards ceremony. The ceremony will recognize the contributions of people in recovery, family members, youth and young adults, as well as allies in helping to advance recovery across the nation. We will have honorees in 8 categories. One will be the recognition of a legendary pioneer. The other 7 categories include the Equity Champion of the Year, Young Adult Leader, Peer Support Worker, Advocate of the Year, Family Leader, Wellness Champion, and Innovator of the Year. We'll be joined by members from HHS and SAMHSA leadership as we give special attention to the proven significance of arts and recovery exhibited in innovative programs or approaches that provide innovative strategies to achieve recovery. This will include the adoption of expressive activities and other new and inventive forms of recovery, resiliency, and intervention tools that promote wellness. The Star Awards ceremony will be live streamed from HHS Live. The link will go live the morning of the event, and I will put the link in the chat. And what you need to do is when you go to that link, go to page 2 to access the live stream of the event that morning. And again, so save the date, September 24th. The program will begin at 1 p.m. sharp. We hope that you'll be able to join us virtually. Back to you, Paulo.
This is going to be kind of a boomerang because I'm going to send it right back to you, Wanda, to give us an update quickly here on our Spark effort.
Yes, certainly. So for those of you who may not be aware, the Spark is our National TA Resource Center that is focused on ensuring equitable access to recovery supports and services across the country. We provide a number of services on a variety of topics, including supported employment, recovery housing, infrastructure and capacity building, leadership development, succession planning, all of those things that help to create a strong recovery community for everyone and ensuring that everyone has equitable access. The link is here on the slide. We'll also put it in the chat. Thank you, Grace, for putting it in the chat. Please reach out to the Spark program if you have questions. No question is too big or too small. We will certainly do our best to assist. And if we don't know the answer, we will certainly take the time to find out. Back to you, Paulo.
Thank you so much, Wanda. Office of Recovery has also been very busy this summer as well in convening a number of technical expert panels along with several major meetings. Noted here in May, we convened our first ever LGBTQI plus and recovery meeting in San Francisco. In June, we convened a dialogue between harm reduction and recovery communities in Denver. Later that month in June, we brought together a technical expert panel that looked at peer crisis respite programs across the country with a particular focus on both looking at issues of equity and access to peer crisis respites, as well as issues of financing. In July, we also had another first, and that was our first ever rural recovery meeting, and that was a particular convening that looked at the unique issues in rural frontier communities, including in Indian nations as well, and in terms of accessing recovery support services. And again, that meeting was convened in July. Earlier this month, we brought together two major meetings. First was a Power of Peers meeting that was focused on peer workforce. And then the next week, wellness in the workplace, and that focused on ways we can expand employment opportunities, including recovery-friendly workplaces, supported employment, and other approaches. Finally, just last week, our final meeting looked specifically at the provision of family peer specialist services and the variety of roles of families and ways that we could perhaps look at broadening the family support providers across the nation as well. We included, or will include in the chat here, our link to each of these meetings. We both use it as an opportunity to promote our goal of inclusion and getting people with lived experience, people in recovery, and family members to the table to tackle some of the major behavioral health issues of today. But we also produce summary reports of each of these convenings, and so we will include that in the chat. The last slide I want to share here before we open it up to conversation is that the Office of Recovery is approaching its second birthday on September the 30th. And we, as Tom noted, we are certainly very proud of the work that we've done, but it also gives us an opportunity to reflect on the past 2 years and think about the future in the Office of Recovery. As you may recall, in our National Recovery Agenda, we've identified these 5 goals: inclusion, the importance of involving people with lived experience and living experience in all aspects of behavioral health care, and also inclusion as it relates to promoting social inclusion and overcoming what's been called stigma. Second goal is equity, and more ways that we can advance recovery opportunities to under-resourced and underserved populations like tribal and LGBTQI+ and others. Our third goal is around peer services and expanding peer-provided services in every community across this nation. Work like we've done with the peer workforce, our national model standards, one example of the work we've done over the last 2 years. Our fourth overall goal is social determinants and addressing issues like housing and employment. So again, over the last 2 years, we have in fact released guidance on best practices of recovery housing. We've convened an interagency work group on recovery housing with our colleagues at HUD. And also for employment, as I noted, we convened recently a Wellness in the Workplace Summit with our colleagues at the Office of National Drug Control Policy on social determinants. Lastly here, wellness, and again, looking at ways of ensuring that we live healthier, happier, longer lives in our communities, addressing issues like comorbidities and the like. And, in support of wellness over the last 2 years, we've done things like convene the dialogue between harm reduction and recovery communities, and convene a dialogue between peers and psychiatry. In fact, look at ways of building better partnerships to advance wellness for people. So these 5 goals, in addition to our continued principles on data, trauma, and rights, really are our national recovery agenda. And again, as we approach our 2nd birthday here, we'd love to hear your feedback. Are these particular goals still working? Are there areas where, in fact, we could be doing more or doing a better job of, what are particular emerging needs that perhaps you're experiencing in your communities? We'd love to hear all that in ways that we can continue to respond to the community and the community's needs. So I think, Lupe, that completes our quick presentations. And we have now over half an hour, in fact, to engage in some conversation with you. And we're going to do this both by individuals can put questions in the chat. And then also we have opportunities for people to raise their hands to be acknowledged as well. So I'm going to ask here, Lupe, if you could help out in terms of this piece.
Sure. So far, I don't see anyone with their hands raised. And I'm checking the Q&A box and I don't see any questions yet. Oh, I do see a hand raised. Heather.
Hey, everybody. The question is, how can we have stronger access to a national treasury of best public policy practices that we can implement in states, and also best procedures and practices? Thanks for your consideration of this request.
Thank you for that question. I'll add a couple of resources that might be helpful to what you suggest. One is we are going to be funding here in September for Recovery Month, in fact, our new Center for Addiction Recovery Services. And this will act as a national resource center that's specifically focusing on per congressional dictate on recovery support services, particularly for addictions, as well as co-occurring. That's one resource to keep an eye out for. This will include a repository of best practices and resources. The second is through the Spark effort that Captain Finch reported back on. That also will have that opportunity. And third, in fact, is on SAMHSA's webpage ourselves, we have a recovery services webpage that also acts as a central repository of recovery-related resources that could be helpful for your work. And we'll put all those links in the chat here as well. Thank you, Heather. I did see, Lupe, one question here in the chat, and a question whether peer services include family services, I think was the question. And yes, the answer is that we do include peer services to be inclusive. Of course, there's differentiation between peer support specialists and family support specialists. But as we know, many states, in fact, certify both in terms of distinct classifications, but under the broad umbrella of peer work, we do include both people with lived experience directly in recovery as well as family members. Maybe I'll invite Carol. This might be a good opportunity, Carol, to do a quick update on your recent family meeting as well.
Thanks, Paolo. So last week we had our family peer support broadening the view And currently, most states that do offer family peer support, it's parent to parent or primary caregiver to primary caregiver. And so when we met last week, we had a variety of family roles, such as a spouse who is married to someone or a partner of someone that has a behavioral health challenge, mental health or substance use condition. We had people who were raised by parents that have mental health and substance use conditions. We had siblings who are helping take responsibility for their adult siblings. So we had a variety, and we were looking at how we might be able to help states broaden that service array. Because as parents, and I'm a parent, and so as a parent, I'm very familiar with what I needed as a parent, but I'm not very familiar what someone might need who's been raised by a parent with a mental health or substance use condition. And so we've had some really great discussion about how states might be able to broaden those services to include more than just parent to parent or caregiver to caregiver. So we're very excited about that. And we're hoping to continue meeting periodically to continue pushing that discussion forward. Thanks, Paolo.
Thank you, Carol, for that update. We see another question has come in. What recovery-oriented practices should we ask providers to use? Was this question. And I'll first indicate we're continuing to do work on updating recovery-oriented systems of care, that model array of recovery supports and services, and with the goal of having that updated new generation ROSC, as we call it, available at the end of this calendar year is our goal. That will provide a blueprint to states and communities, an updated blueprint to include things like harm reduction, for instance, to include emerging recovery support services and other approaches that we know are helpful for individuals to achieve long-term recovery. Again, so stay tuned for that particular guidance by the end of the year. I also want to invite, because I'd like to have as many of our Office of Recovery members here share a little bit. Donna Dimitrovic, Donna, are you here with us?
I am. Yep.
Work that we did specifically through the block grant programs on recovery support services. Would you mind describing that a little bit?
Sure. So we were asked as the block grant descriptions were being developed around recovery support services, we were asked to be part of those conversations with the Center for Substance Abuse Treatment. And there is currently a list of those descriptions linked to the Office of Recovery website, where it will kind of describe what peer support is, what what can be funded under the block grant as a recovery support service. Those were, I believe, several months ago listed on our website. Sometimes it's a little difficult to find it, but if you go to the Office of Recovery and under sure Lupe there, Kristen just put it in the chat, under the recovery support services, it will list everything that can be funded with the block grant money. And hopefully that makes it clear for organizations and states to understand what exactly the funding can be used for and how it can be used for peer and recovery support services. Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you, Donna. I see another question here. It's come in asking specifically how the SAMHSA is uplifting subject matter experts, particularly from minoritized and marginalized communities, to provide technical assistance. And question further is, how does one apply to become a provider of technical assistance, noting that the Peer Recovery Center of Excellence has done a really good job and has an application on their website, and does Spark have something similar? So Wanda, would you like to address particularly around technical assistance and expanding TA providers?
Yes, certainly. I was actually typing as you were reading the question, so very timely. So I think folks need to understand grants and contracts work differently. When you have a contract, there's a specific protocol that that vendor chooses to manage their business. So we as the government can't hire for them. They handle that themselves. If you are interested in reaching out to those programs, you are certainly welcome to reach out and inquire. So that's the answer to the question. But thank you for asking, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Wanda. Another question, this is a really good one. They're all good, but this one asks if we know of anything being done to address the educational barriers in hiring practice that occur in recovery services and in mental health. Higher and higher education is often required for entry-level jobs where the pay is not realistic for paying off needed student loans and providing a livable wage in the field. Many trainings could be provided while on the job, while the burden of cost does not reside with the workforce. Addressing these barriers may decrease the difficulties many facilities are facing in hiring and maintaining staff, certainly since the pandemic. Thank you, Kimberly, for this question. David, are you with us as well?
I sure am.
Would you mind taking this one, particularly about the educational requirements that we put forward in the standards?
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with our model standards for peer support certification, I highly recommend you take a look at them. So within the model standards, we do have a specific standard on education. And during our meetings with our technical experts, so one of the first steps to developing the model standards was meeting with the field. And the field includes people with lived and living experience, including peer support specialists. And we gathered that, the state required certifications that have some sort of educational requirement regarding college or high school really have served as barriers to people obtaining their peer certification. And so one of the recommendations that we have for our state partners is to remove the educational requirements. Instead, we just recommend that there be some sort of literacy test or reading and writing, because we know that peer support is not dependent on a high school or college diploma. It's founded upon lived experience and then training on becoming a peer and providing peer services. So, we've seen that as a big barrier, and especially for a lot of the specialized peer certifications, peers for justice involved populations. And so we've done our best to work with our state partners to remove those. Paulo, anything else you think we should add to that?
I think that's great. Thank you, David. I will just add here that our partners at HRSA, the Health Resources Services Administration, does offer several student loan repayment programs where individuals who are interested in going into the behavioral health workforce in specific professions can apply, for loan repayment. So that might be another resource. And I've noticed, several states have specifically done that around behavioral health, using, for instance, opioid settlement dollars to expand the workforce as one additional suggestion. I see another question here is about best parenting practices and if we're offering any kind of parenting classes. So Carol, maybe I'll go back to you on this one.
Noticed in the chat book, some other agencies put some of the things that they offer for family and for training. I don't know that we at SAMHSA specifically have a parenting curriculum that we train on. that might be something you can help me with, Paolo. I'm not sure about that, not that I'm familiar with.
Two things I would note is, one is through our Center for Substance Abuse Prevention, has a lot of information material specifically for parents. Talk Now campaign being one focused on underage drinking. It's been very successful effort there. I also know, Carol, maybe you could say a word or two about the Family Network grants.
Yes, through the Center for Mental Health Services, there are statewide family network grants, and those are supporting those statewide family organizations that provide support mostly to parents or primary caregivers of children with behavioral health challenges or with mental health conditions and or substance use conditions. And so they've been around, I think, since the late 90s, maybe, those grants, and continue to be very popular with the states.
Thank you, Carol, for that. One of the other questions, I'll go back here to David, was about funding, specifically looking at ways of expanding funding for recovery-oriented systems of care and ensuring that peer and family workforce rather has a living wage. I know the Peer Recovery Center of Excellence has several resources when it comes to financing. Could you share that?
Yeah, so the peer COE, which is actually in the final month of its project period, but is going to be starting again in a different form with the Center for Addiction Recovery Support Services, which is going to be beginning in October. But they did develop a resource on the reimbursement rates for peer support services. That's a really robust report. I will throw the link into the chat. So that does talk about financing and what the different states are paying and reimbursing for peer support services, especially through Medicaid reimbursement. You know, this has been an ongoing challenge and issue and priority for SAMHSA, and making sure that the resources are there for our communities. And I know that every state is different, and I want to acknowledge that the barriers that you all are facing are unique depending on whether you're in an urban community, a rural community, you know, what are the politics in the state that you live in. There's a lot of different aspects that factor into the reimbursement and the pay for the people working in these professions. So Paula, I'll grab that link and throw it in the chat for folks. And there's also the CFRI report as well that I'll throw in there.
Thank you, David. I'll also just highlight recent guidance from our partners at the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, CMS, on their frequently asked questions as it relates to Medicaid financing of peer support services. And we, in fact, provide guidance in the development of those recently issued FAQs. One of the things that is included in there is encouragement of states to, in fact, look at a living wage for the peer workforce. We know that's a particularly important need, that our peer workforce needs to be paid, you know, a good compensation in order to do the work that they're asked to do. So that's an ongoing goal for us as well. I see a raised hand here. Heidi Allison. Heidi, please.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for that information, David. So I'm the co-founder and program director of Nate's Place, a wellness and recovery center in Oxnard, California. And I'm an LCSW, but also a peer. And so here's we started our nonprofit a year and a half ago. We have 7 peer recovery coaches who have done the training, and 5 of them are certified by the state. But it's my understanding that you can't bill Medi-Cal. So we see people who have mental health and or substance use conditions, that you can't bill Medi-Cal until you get DHCS credentialed. Is that correct? That's what my understanding has been. So we're going through the DHCS credentialing process, but that's like a huge ordeal. And then, I talked to the county because they run the drug Medi-Cal, but most of our clients or participants have a mental health issue primary. And so it feels like it's really confusing.
It can be
And
very confusing, Heidi.
yes.
We have one of the resources we have on our team here is we've broken the staff of the Office of Recovery up into regional liaisons. So
Okay.
HHS has 10 regions. And so Katera Aslami Templin is the one for the Region 9 where California sits. We'll make sure that she follows up with you.
Oh,
And
that'd be great.
she's been involved very much in the rollout of the California peer workforce efforts, and she could be a good resource. So she'll follow up with you after that.
Okay. Should I get her name and number or give my number? Or
If you want to put in the chat your number, and we'll take it down, or your email, and then
that'd be great. Yes.
we'll have her follow up with you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, yeah. I know one of the other questions here was regarding update about SCORE, which stands for SAMHSA's Core Outcomes for Recovery. And at our last quarterly recovery exchange meeting, we presented some of the draft questions. And what SCORE is a 13-item scale around measuring recovery that we're hoping to introduce as part of the agency's revisions of our GIPRA or grant reporting requirements. Where that stands right now is likely later this fall, in about a little over a month's time. We will be keep an eye out for Federal Register notice where the updated grant reporting requirement tools will be put out for public comment. So that's an opportunity then for people to weigh in on those measures, not only SCORE for the recovery measure, but the other measures that the agency is looking at modifying moving forward. So that is where SCORE stands right now. Let's see, the regional people for each region, what we can include there is we have a link to on our website. One of my team here can put in that links to your regional offices for SAMHSA around the country. And let's see if there's other SCORE, again, a question about what the acronym was. SCORE stands for SAMHSA Core Outcomes of Recovery, SCOR.
Thank you.
Question here, and Tom, I don't know if you want to take this one or not, about ongoing support for the mental health training and technical assistance centers, the MHTTCs.
Sure, I'm happy to. We have so that grant program will be also in its final stages, and it is being we have announced a new program, which I'm going to I think I'm going to mess up the acronym of it, but it is changed a little bit, and I certainly can put something in the chat to refer to it. And then if you have additional questions, please follow up.
Thank you, Tom, for that. There was a question I'm just responding also in the chat here about the SCORE measure again, and it focuses on SAMHSA's recovery definition, working definition of recovery, health, home purpose, and community measures. So stay tuned for the specific items when that is released and the Federal Register notice in a little over a month's time projected. See, other questions here, Lupe, that I may have overlooked?
Yeah, Paulo, there's one. I'm not sure if we might have just answered this one from Lou Ann. How do you help to promote collaboration within a country or region? We have an awesome SUD collaborative group in our county. We have published a directory, a full calendar for 12 events for Recovery Month with a press release and recovery fact sheet for a county.
Michael, this is a question about Recovery Month, coordination of activities and the like. Would you like to take this one?
Sure, Paulo. So I believe you can approach the Faces and Voices of Recovery organization, Faces and Voices of Recovery.org, and their website will allow you to promote recovery activities throughout the month of September on their website.
Again, want to invite anyone that's on this call. It's great to see we get several hundred folks. Are there things you're particularly proud of in your community that are in fact working? Are there innovations? We'd also love to hear that, as well as any other questions that you all may have. But this is our opportunity also to learn and listen. So if anyone has something they're excited for, both for Recovery Month that's coming up or other activities that you're working on, we'd love to hear about it. Here's your chance. Either raise your hand or put it in the chat. Here's one. We've opened our first women's and children's recovery residence. One of the babies just started walking last week. Awesome. Thank you, Honesty, for sharing that. Anyone else would like to raise their hand and offer their comment or questions? Here's a new recovery center in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Congratulations, Luce.
Hey, Paulo, we have another question in the Q&A.
Okay.
Kimberly is asking, will there be more resources, supports made available for traumatic brain injury after overdose?
That's a good question as well. Tom, perhaps something with the SOAR grant program or the technical assistance with that, ORN?
Could you repeat the question, Paul?
The question is there work going on looking at the impacts of traumatic brain injuries on those that have experienced overdose?
Not that I'm aware of specifically. I know that we have had some outreach from some of the national organizations that are working in that space. Happy to check with our colleagues in CSAT and see if there's anything that we can offer and get back to folks on it.
Thank you for that question. Jaime, did you have a comment or question?
Hi, Paulo. It's Jamie, not Jaime this
Jamie,
time.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to bring the attention just to share with you that I'm currently this is something about recovery. Since it's recovery, in the month of October, I'll be hosting a peer statewide conference in California. I'd like to share with everyone here. And just FYI, because now that Prop 1 in California have passed, 30% of the funding for mental health MHSA is actually given to to support housing, 30% by our governor. As a result, there's a lot of lacking in peer roles and peer-run organizations to be able to support themselves moving forward. So the objective of my this conference is to bring leaders together to understand, as we unpack after Prop 1 has passed marginally, what are we going to do? By 2026 in California, most MHSA funding will be actually averted. They'll be actually done. That's it. So I'm hoping that the leaders in this room can understand the severity of it for California, because it's actually the second last state that actually roped in to do peer support work. So I just wanted to connect with peers who have like-mindedness to come up with better proposals. I'm a certified peer support specialist. I've done my exam and I'm going to go for my area of specialization. So one of the things I'm considered important, maybe SAMHSA can also think about, is educational around the areas of specialization, especially for the marginalized, underserved and unserved community who are BIPOC. There's no one size that fits all. And I think maybe if I'm bold to say one thing, maybe we should think about a nuance between the medical and recovery model. It's not just about medical, you're done, you're actually cured. Or you do recovery, that's hope, that's it. Because recovery, as we all know, I don't have to preach to the choir that it's not linear. It comes back. So what we can do as to different modalities, different ways to support the community in the best way that is actually like not just a band-aid to a problem. Sorry, that was a mouthful.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Look forward to your conference. When are you hoping on convening it?
It's going to be October 7 in Richmond, California. And it's actually going to be in a Marriott courtyard. I'm going to put it in here. I don't know if I can paste, but I'm going to put the link if I may. Just for those who are interested, because my vision is not just only for 1 year, that's it, you know, it's going to be continually. So I'm hoping to talk to you, or, you know, Donna, I know you're here. And also, I mean, there's a few of us I know, Michael, and I'm hoping that we can all come seriously to think about what are the strategies that bring out systemic solutions rather than problem, you know? We all have actually a lot to unpack, but as a peer, I have multiple disabilities. There's a lot of things that I cannot tell you what is the best, because I'm still learning myself, but I've been an advocate for family member and also myself for many years. And I sincerely hope that we can actually do a better, more cohesive way if we build the community together. Sorry, again. I have a lot to say, I know.
No, it's all good stuff. Thank you for your leadership, Jamie. I see a number of folks interested in connecting with you after the meeting here in the chat. So very much appreciate your work. We have time maybe for one more question from Frank Marshall. Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank Marshall with Columbia Pathways to Recovery. We're a rural recovery community organization. I think earlier you asked what people are going to be doing for Recovery Month. And just we have an annual recovery walk. Unfortunately, you know, we have a lot of signs for people who we have lost to substance use, but it's nice. We have some speakers, kicks off at Town Hall, and we walk through town with candles. And people seem to find that to be a meaningful event. We're also going to be having a showing of the movie Inheritance. I don't know if any of you folks have heard about it, but a group over in Massachusetts reached out to me. It's a documentary where they track someone, I think from about age of 12 to adulthood, and, you know, growing up in an addictive home, and how it affected him and how things all wound up. We're also having a golf outing in September as a fundraiser, which looks like it's going to be a good success. And I'm just going to beat my constant drum that we need money to pay rent. Everybody wants to give us money for programs, and programs are great, but we pay $3,000 a month rent where we are. And if we don't have money to keep the doors open and lights on, we're not going to have any money. We're not going to have a space to do any programs. So just basic funding for operation expenses are always needed. So anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody being here and all the work everybody's doing. It's great.
Thank you, Frank, for sharing all that great happenings and on ongoing needs around infrastructure support. We know that's an important issue to continue to address. And just about echo Michael's comment here that the chat really blew up with people providing great updates on activities for Recovery Month and other resources. And it's really heartwarming to see all the great efforts that you all are undertaking across the nation and helping to advance recovery, in fact. We are going to end this meeting here, but before I do want to thank again our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, Tom Coderre, for joining us. Tom, any final words?
Just thank you to everybody. We had great questions today, great interaction. This is exactly what we hope that these meetings would become. If we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, we'll save the chat and try to get back to individuals with more information. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Back to you, Paolo.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to thank also the team here in the Office of Recovery, particularly Lupe Ramos here for her coordination skills for our recovery exchange meetings, but it really is a whole team here. And again, thank you all. Happy early Recovery Month. We look forward to having a great September. Stay tuned to the next Recovery Exchange in about 3 months' time. We'll send out the notice. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Take care.